Picture this, North London, 1977. Disco music boomed, but in an unassuming house on Green Street, something sinister lurked, something that chilled the bones of those who dared enter. This wasn't a disco beat. This was the Enfield Poltergeist, the 1970s, a time of social change, but also a time when interest in the paranormal was peaking. People were fascinated by the unexplained. UFO sightings, tales of ghosts, and psychic phenomena filled newspapers and television screens. Against this backdrop, the Enfield Poltergeist emerged. It grabbed the world's attention. Enfield, a seemingly ordinary borough, became synonymous with the strange and unexplained. The epicenter of this paranormal maelstrom was 284 Green Street. An ordinary house, an ordinary family, about to face something extraordinary. This wasn't just a haunted house. This was a poltergeist case. Objects moved on their own. Disembodied voices whispered. The Hodgson family living in this house were about to have their lives turned upside down. Peggy Hodgson, a single mother, lived at 284 Green Street with her 4 children, Margaret the eldest. Then came Janet, the 11-year-old, who would become the focal point of the haunting. And finally, the 2 younger boys, Johnny and Billy. They were an ordinary family. Or so they thought. Life wasn't always easy for the Hodgsons, but it was about to get a whole lot harder. The strange events began in August 1977. It started subtly. Noises at night, objects moving slightly. At first they dismissed it. Just the house settling, or maybe mice. They were wrong. As the days turned into nights, the activity escalated. Furniture moved on its own. Loud bangs echoed throughout the house. The children were terrified. Peggy, desperate for help, contacted the police. What they found would shock even the most hardened officer. The police witnessed firsthand the strange happenings. A heavy chest of drawers slid across the floor. Nobody was near it. The officers were baffled. This wasn't a prank. This was something else. Word spread quickly. The Enfield Poltergeist case was about to become a media sensation. News of the Enfield haunting spread like wildfire. It reached the ears of Grosse and Playfair, 2 paranormal investigators from the Society for Psychical Research. Intrigued and skeptical in equal measure, they decided to investigate. Little did they know they were stepping into a maelstrom of unexplained phenomena. Grosse, a seasoned investigator, approached the case with an open mind. Playfair, a journalist and author, was more cautious. He suspected a hoax. But as they began their investigation, doubts crept in. The evidence was hard to ignore. The testimonies were compelling. Grosse and Playfair spent months at 284 Green Street. They interviewed the family. They documented the strange events. They set up cameras and recording equipment, hoping to capture the poltergeist's activities. What they witnessed was both fascinating and terrifying. Objects flew across the room, seemingly propelled by an unseen force. Temperature fluctuations chilled the air. And then there were the voices. Disembodied voices, seemingly emanating from Janet, the youngest daughter. This was no ordinary haunting. This was something different, something sinister. The poltergeist's activities weren't confined to the shadows. It seemed to revel in disrupting the normalcy of the Hodgson household. Objects vanished, only to reappear in impossible locations. Furniture danced across the room as if guided by invisible hands. A heavy armchair levitated, hovering in mid-air before crashing back down. The atmosphere in the house grew heavy, charged with an unseen energy. Cold spots sent shivers down the spines of those who dared enter. The air crackled with anticipation, as if something malevolent was about to happen. And then there were the noises. Loud bangs echoed throughout the house, seemingly emanating from the walls themselves. Scratching sounds like claws on a chalkboard sent shivers down the spines of the Hodgson children. Unexplained whispers and growls added to the eerie atmosphere, leaving no doubt that something was amiss. The poltergeist's activities weren't random acts of mischief. They seemed designed to torment and terrify the Hodgson family. It was as if an unseen entity was toying with them, reveling in their fear and desperation. The house on Green Street had become a battleground between the living and something else. Janet became the epicenter of the Enfield Poltergeist. The entity used her as a conduit for its terrifying activities. Her voice transformed into a guttural rasp. She claimed to be possessed by Bill Wilkins, a former resident. Her eyes, wide with terror, seemed to look beyond those present. She levitated above her bed, defying gravity itself. The strange events at 284 Green Street didn't go unnoticed by the neighbors. Many reported seeing objects moving on their own through the Hodgson's windows. Others heard the blood-curdling screams and disembodied voices that emanated from the house. The Enfield Poltergeist was no longer a private horror, it was a public spectacle. "I saw it with my own eyes," exclaimed a neighbor, her voice trembling. The police, initially skeptical, were now convinced that something unexplainable was happening. One officer, PC Carolyn Heaps, admitted, "I was a non-believer until I went to that house." Even seasoned journalists and photographers were taken aback by what they witnessed. As the Enfield Poltergeist case gained notoriety, photographs and audio recordings became key pieces of evidence. Images of Janet levitating, furniture moving on its own, and even a purported image of the entity itself fueled the public's fascination. But the authenticity of this evidence was fiercely debated. Skeptics argued that the photographs were easily faked. The levitation images, they claimed, were simply a result of Janet jumping on the bed. The moving furniture was attributed to trickery and clever camera angles, and the image of the entity just a case of pareidolia. Believers, however, pointed to the sheer volume of photographic evidence. They argued that not all of it could be faked, especially the images captured by seasoned photographers like Graham Morris. The debate over the authenticity of the Enfield Poltergeist evidence continues to this day. Some dismiss it as a hoax, while others believe it provides compelling proof of the paranormal. The photographs and recordings remain a source of fascination and controversy, a testament to the enduring power of the Enfield haunting. As the haunting intensified, Grosse and Playfair attempted to communicate with the entity. They used a Ouija board, hoping to establish a dialogue and uncover the reasons behind its torment of the Hodgsons. What they encountered, however, was beyond anything they could have imagined. The planchette, a small heart-shaped piece of wood used to spell out messages, darted across the board with unnatural speed. It spelled out chilling messages claiming to be the spirit of Bill Wilkins, the former resident who had died in the house. "Get out," the board spelled, the letters appearing one by one. "This is my house." The air grew heavy as if an unseen presence had entered the room. The temperature plummeted, sending shivers down the spines of those present. Despite the entity's hostile messages, Grosse and Playfair persisted. They asked questions about its past, its motivations, and its connection to Janet. The answers, often cryptic and unsettling, only deepened the mystery surrounding the Enfield Poltergeist. Despite the chilling testimonies and compelling evidence, the Enfield Poltergeist case wasn't without its skeptics. Some argued that the Hodgson children, particularly Janet, were responsible for the strange happenings. They suggested that the children, seeking attention or bored with their lives, had fabricated the entire haunting. Skeptics pointed to inconsistencies in the evidence. They argued that the levitations and moving objects could be explained by trickery and sleight of hand. The disembodied voices, they claimed, were simply the children mimicking different voices to scare and mislead the investigators. Others suggested that Janet, the focal point of the haunting, suffered from a psychological condition known as attention-seeking syndrome. They argued that her trances, levitation, and demonic voices were all manifestations of her desire for attention and sympathy. Despite the skeptics' attempts to debunk the Enfield Poltergeist, many questions remained unanswered. The sheer volume of evidence, the testimonies of credible witnesses, and the unexplained phenomena left many convinced that something truly extraordinary had occurred at 284 Green Street. The Enfield Poltergeist case remains one of the most compelling and controversial hauntings in history. Despite years of investigation, no definitive explanation has been found for the strange events at 284 Green Street. The haunting continues to fascinate and terrify, a testament to the enduring power of the unknown. The case left its mark on all involved. The Hodgson family eventually moved out of the house. Janet struggled to cope with the psychological and emotional scars. The case had a profound impact on paranormal investigation. Today, 284 Green Street stands as a silent reminder of the Enfield Poltergeist. The Enfield Poltergeist case stands as a chilling reminder that some mysteries may never be solved. It forces us to confront the limits of our understanding and acknowledge that there may be forces at work in the universe that we cannot comprehend. Whether you believe in the paranormal or dismiss it as nonsense, the story of the Enfield Poltergeist is a haunting tale that continues to fascinate and disturb. The case serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of dabbling with the unknown. The Hodgsons, an ordinary family thrust into extraordinary circumstances, paid a heavy price for their encounter with the paranormal. Their experience reminds us that some doors are best left unopened, some mysteries best left unsolved. While the Enfield Poltergeist may have faded into history, its legacy endures. It continues to inspire books, documentaries, and countless debates about the nature of reality and the existence of the paranormal. And so the story of the Enfield Poltergeist lives on, a chilling reminder that some things are best left unexplained.